Hello chess friends and welcome to Azarov Chess channel and welcome to another beautiful game from the Hans Niemann against the world competition that we have followed now in the last couple of weeks. This Hans Niemann against the world competition is actually a competition where Hans is saying, screw you guys, you're not inviting me to the big events, you're not inviting me to the most important tournament, so I'm going to organize my own event. Where I'll play against the top GMs of these days. And we know, of course, that Hans played against Anish Giri and he outplayed Anish, I would say, really with a clear result. In the blitz section, he destroyed Anish Giri, won also the classical time format section, and in the rapid section, they played a draw, which is really, really amazing thing because Anish Giri was always one of the top GMs now in the last couple of years. And I've decided to show you now really a stunning and amazing, incredible gameplay by Hans in the blitz section, where Hans, I would say, played in sort of a Garry Kasparov style, really interesting, dynamic, sharp style where you're not allowing your opponent to breathe. Of course, there are always drawish ideas for your opponent, but in order to make a draw, you have to really find amazing, incredible tactical solutions. And in this fast time formats, when you're getting many questions asked, I think it's very, very unlikely that you're going to find really the best move. So in my opinion, great game here by Hans Niemann. So let's see now what happened with the white pieces. Hans opened with move e4, c5 by Anish the Sicilian, knight of 3 d6 modern variations, and now bishop to c4 going into different sidelines, not going immediately into the open Sicilian, of course challenging immediately the black on light square. So in my opinion, simply the best ways here after knight you have 6 d3 and e6 you're to compete simply against this powerful bishop. Then of course maybe later, if the position is allowing it, of course breaking and entering in the center of the board with the move d5, calcing by Hans, bishop to e7, c3, creating some breathing spaces for the bishop, of course to get it maybe then later to the square c2, calcing, bishop to b3, and now b5. Good move, I would say, by Anish, where Anish has equalized the game in the early stage of the opening, has got great expansion here on the queen side, and has opportunities, of course, to push the pawns. We have rook to e1. Hans is liberating now the f1 square, like in the Ruy Lopez Italian opening theory, like in maybe this Sicilian's knight to d2, knight to f1, knight to g3 is now the path of the knight to improve simply the knight's ability. So here bishop to b7, now comes this idea, knight to d7 by Anish, and now after bishop to c2 and e5, the game basically transposes into similar positions like in the common Ruy Lopez, I would say. Of course, it's not the Ruy Lopez, and probably this position has never been reached in the Ruy Lopez, but you see many times in the Ruy Lopez, from white's perspective, you have an issue with your light square bishop. Now what you're basically trying to do here is somehow to break and enter with the move d4, and then if possible to e5 to liberate your diagonal. Then maybe with the support of this bishop on c1, activate many pieces on this side of the board. So you're trying to do something here on the king side. That's why here a4 by Hans Niemann, he doesn't want to tolerate this expansion by black on the queen side, because we have to notice here black is much better on the queen side. So with this move a4, Hans is saying, I'll stop your attack and then I'll try to do something on the king side. a6 by Anish, he supports now his pawn on b5, and now comes this maneuver idea to get the knight on g3, rook to e8, now comes knight to g3, of course, and now bishop to f8. Now we have reached a completely new position. Now Hans is breaking with the common d4 stuff. So this is the way to go. You don't wait here. What Anish should try, of course, to avoid is immediately to take with the e-pawn. Then maybe the e-pawn of white could be very mobile, and then this light square bishop would finally come into the game. It would be a very dangerous position then to handle for Anish Giri. So that's why here c takes d4 by Anish. Now comes c takes d4, and Anish takes out now just in order to control further the e5 square with his rook and also with his knight, not allowing, of course, this move e5. Hans takes and has now great attacking chances around the square f5. We have b takes a4, and now knight to f5 immediately by Hans, hitting now the weak pawn on g7 and also the weakness on d6. Now we have d5 by Anish, improving the position of the pawn, of course also activating his own bishop if something clears here. Very good move, I would say, by Anish. He doesn't want to leave himself any structural weaknesses, any weak pawns on the board. d5 is well protected by the knight and also by the bishop, but now comes the really beautiful Garry Kasparov style here by Hans Niemann. First of all, bishop to a4. Now this bishop is pinning the knight to the rook here. Here d takes e4 by Anish. Now Hans goes with bishop to g5 g5. Look at this. The bishops are pinning both of this knight. In order to stay in the game, Anish has to play now at least rook to e5 in order to get out of the first pin. And now here Hans continues with bishop to d7. Great move, which allows here Hans Niemann to mess up the structure. He gives up now the other bishop just in order to provoke some kind of a weakness here in front of Black's king. Anish is trying to simplify the game by trading off the queens, but now Hans played the beautiful intermediate knight to h6, forcing now reaction. But now after g takes h6, at least in this sequence, Hans Niemann is keeping one of the bishops on the board, which is very important. If he would have continued maybe in such an open and dynamic battle with only two knights against two bishops, although maybe Black would have a messed up pawn structure, I don't think it would be such a good position here for white. So keeping the dark square bishop now on the board is very important. This intermediate knight to h6 was very important. Now he took, of course, the queen. The rook is still hanging, so again Anish Giri has to react. But now knight to h5, continue the attacking flow, keeping simply the bishop on f6, keeping it simply on the most active square on the board. We have bishop to e7. Of course, here Hans traded off. He doesn't want to tolerate this amazing bishop pair of Anish Giri. We have now rook to e7 and now rook to d6. Again, playing on the simple idea, the most active square, using the rook on the most active rank here. Now Anish gets challenged here simply by the rook on the 6th rank. Rook to c8. Here great move by Hans, because he still can escape and he still can protect the pawn on b2. Hits, of course, also the bishop on b7. And let's stop and evaluate the position. The normal computer relation is always about equal here, because if black and white play the perfect game, I think this should be drawish position. But I still think that playing the position here with the white pieces is much more easier, because what you're trying to do with the knight against the bishop, you're trying to fix the knight on a dark square where it cannot be, of course, attacked by the light square bishop. But it's very easy to perform that. Here after move f5 by Anish Giri, Hans has always this beautiful square in f4, and from this square the knight is controlling simply the center of the board. This rook is well placed, controls always the rook a little bit. The rook is somehow overloaded to the defense of the bishop. The rook is very active here, still protective. And okay, in order to make something with this light square bishop, I think in one moment maybe black has to sacrifice maybe one pawn in order to really activate the piece. And that's the exact thing that I was talking about in the beginning. In order to stay in this game, black has to find really amazing tactical solutions, because the knight, as I said, is simply becoming the best piece on the board. Here king to f7, so far so good by Anish. We have h4, keeping everything on dark squares where the pawns cannot be attacked by the light square bishop. We have rook from e to c7, rook to d1, rook to c1. Of course, Hans is trading it off, has to now escape, and now the bishop is hanging, so that's why bishop to c8. At least in this tactical sequence, Hans Niemann managed to get this bishop out of this diagonal where it's more dangerous against the potential g2 weakness. We have now the move h5. This pawn is protected, and now Hans is trying to play g3, keeping sort of compact position. The pawn is protecting the knight is protecting the pawn, the rook is still very active, and going then maybe here for the weakness on h7. Rook to c5. We have now knight to h3. Again, I would say a pretty equal position, but now comes the first critical moment of the game. Here Anish makes the mistake, king to f8, and this is what I'm talking about. This is a move that I think 90% players would play. Why not? Nothing dramatic is happening. But a better choice is actually, as I said, you have to find really a brutal, almost impossible tactical sequence. You have to find in fast time formats the move f4. You have to sacrifice the pawn just in order to stay in the game. Knight to f4, then you play rook to f5, and after king to g3, what you're doing here, you're trying this one, rook to g5. You again force your opponent to step back, and if you play something like g3 to maybe keep his king there, not exposed to some rook's attacks, and maybe you protect the knight. Now you have this resource, rook to c5. You're trying maybe to go for this one, you protect the pawn, and now you go for the f2 pawn, and white is pretty much forced to go behind. You attack the king again, and if he in any cases goes to the light square, then you have this one, bishop to g4. So the most important thing in the sequence is to provoke the move g3, forcing light square problems in white's position. Now the position gets very dangerous. Look at this, even some checkmate threats are possible in h1. You have to play something like g4, king rook to h1, and now you're going behind, you pick up this one, and suddenly you're breathing again. So let's go back. You have to find really this move f4 just in order somehow to let this powerful bishop breathe. But here king to f8, as I said, so hard to see. This can be just seen, I think, by the computer, by the top engines of these. This after king to f8, king to g3. Now Hans is preventing f4 in a good way. Anish sees that he should have played probably f4 earlier, but now it's a little bit too late because the king is on a good square. It cannot be easily now attacked. Of course, Anish is trying, but now Hans doesn't have to play the move g3 that we have seen previously. Again, king to f7, here played by Anish. Again, you have to try at least this move, rook to f5. Then maybe after g3, going again into this line with rook to c2, and then attacking and then exploiting somehow maybe the light square problems. But king to f7 is now the last bad move that Anish can tolerate. Hans is taking over here from this point on. I think the game becomes a one-way ticket. Rook to c6, attacking the bishop, taking out the pawn. The position is slowly collapsing here. First of all, attacking the bishop. Now rook to d2. Hans keeps everything good together, and I think we can agree completely winning endgame here for white. Bishop to f5. Now Hans goes with the check and cements now the knight again on a beautiful square, again on a dark square again, that we have talked about, cementing the position, placing the knight where it cannot be attacked anymore by the light square bishop. Bishop to e6. Now g4. Good move by Hans, protecting of course his pawn on h5, and also clearing the path for the king. The king can be maybe activated here, getting of course into the game. So king to f6, king to g3. Now rook to d6. Whatever you do, even if you try to protect it here, then we attack this one. You're trying to take, then we pick up this one. If you play here bishop to c8 to escape, then we can play b4, deflecting maybe the rook a little bit, and then you attack this pawn. Very hard to defend. Then you go here. If you go here, then this one is falling again. White would create two connected passers. Again, game over here for black. After rook to d6, Anish tried rook to e5, but now Hans is pushing the pawn. Now we have h6, and after rook to c5, forcing a trace of rooks. Here Hans Niemann found really another amazing endgame idea. Obviously, it's losing here for black, but you have to again be really accurate in order to win the game, because after bishop to e8, Hans plays now knight to f5, Anish attacks, and now a beautiful move here by Hans, knight to d6, sacrificing temporarily the pawn here. Knight to e4 comes with a check. We have now king to f5, and now c6, pushing the pawn further. You cannot take, of course, because you lose this one, and then this pawn is marching. So after c6, bishop to e2, Anish has to go now behind in order to stop the promotion here on c8. Now Hans pushes the pawn further. You don't have time to pick up the knight on e4 because the promotion will happen. So that's why you have to play here bishop to a6, but now knight to d6 comes with the check, and here the c8 promotion will happen. You have to then give up the bishop for pawn, and with the knight, of course, it's game over here for black. Great game by Hans. Very amazing stuff. He played this game without inaccuracies, mistakes, or blunders in blitz level, which is really incredible. You saw Anish had to see really amazing tactics in order to stay in the game. I'm not sure how many of us would even consider the move f4, sacrificing a pawn just in order to somehow let the light square bishop breathe. So amazing again game by Hans Niemann. So okay, I hope that you enjoyed this game. I really enjoyed it a lot. Interesting ideas here of the Sicilian defense, certain transposition into similar structures of the Ruy Lopez or Italian game. If you want to see more beautiful Hans Niemann, Magnus Carlsen, Alireza Firouzja chess games, check out our commented chess games. Here's the link of our playlist, and if you like this content, hit the subscribe button, See you soon with some more videos, and what do we say in the end? Chess is the best, of course.